Imagine you're negotiating a deal. The other person makes an offer. It sounds reasonable, maybe even generous. Many people feel relieved at this moment. They think the negotiation is already over, so they accept the offer quickly. But experienced negotiators almost never accept the first offer. Not because they are greedy, and not because they enjoy conflict. They avoid accepting the first offer for a very simple reason. The first offer almost always hides extra room for negotiation, and accepting it too quickly can cost you far more than you realize. Why the first offer is rarely the best. In most negotiations, the first offer is not the final offer. It is only the starting point. Think of it as the opening move in a chess game. The person making the first offer usually expects negotiation. They expect discussion, and they often leave room to adjust their position. This is a normal part of negotiation strategy. For example, when companies set prices or salaries, they rarely begin with their absolute limit. Instead, they start with a number that gives them space to move later. If the other side accepts immediately, they gain an advantage. But if negotiation begins, they can slowly move toward a compromise. This is why accepting the first offer too quickly can send an unexpected signal. It can make the other person think, maybe I could have offered less. And that feeling can change the dynamic of the entire deal. Psychology of the first offer. The first offer also creates something powerful in negotiations. It creates an anchor. Anchoring is a psychological effect where the first number mentioned in a conversation influences everything that follows. For example, if someone proposes a price of $10,000, that number becomes the mental reference point for the negotiation. Even if the final agreement becomes $8,000 or $9,000, the anchor still shapes the outcome. This is why skilled negotiators think carefully about how they respond to the first offer. They understand that the first number sets the tone for the entire conversation. Instead of accepting immediately, they often pause. They ask questions. They explore the reasoning behind the number. This slows the negotiation and gives them time to understand the situation. And understanding is always power in negotiations. What to do instead of instant agreement. When you hear the first offer in a negotiation, the most important step is simple. Pause. You don't need to reject it immediately, and you don't need to accept it immediately. Instead, ask questions. For example, how did you arrive at that number? Or, can you help me understand the factors behind this offer? These questions accomplish several things. First, they slow down the conversation. Second, they reveal valuable information about the other side's priorities. Third, they signal that you are thoughtful and deliberate. And thoughtful negotiators are much harder to pressure. This approach keeps the conversation open while giving you time to evaluate the offer carefully. The arts of the counteroffer. Another powerful response to the first offer is a counteroffer. A counteroffer signals that negotiation is still in progress. It allows both sides to explore new possibilities. But good counteroffers are not random. They are thoughtful. They are realistic, and they are supported by reasoning. Instead of simply saying that's too high or that's too low, skilled negotiators explain their perspective. They provide context. They introduce alternative numbers. And this creates a constructive negotiation process. Step by step, both sides move closer to a solution. This process is not about defeating the other side. It's about discovering the range where agreement becomes possible. When can you finally accept the first offer? There are moments when accepting the first offer actually makes sense. For example, when the offer already exceeds your expectations, or when speed is more valuable than additional negotiation, but experienced negotiators still pause before accepting. They confirm the details. They ensure the agreement truly works for both sides. Because negotiation is not only about numbers, it's about clarity. And taking a moment to understand the full picture can prevent costly misunderstandings later. The first offer in a negotiation can feel tempting. It can feel like the problem has already been solved. But experienced negotiators know that the first offer is rarely the final one. Instead of rushing to accept, they slow the conversation down. They ask questions. They explore options. And they search for the best possible agreement. Because negotiation is not about reacting quickly. It's about thinking strategically, and sometimes the smartest move you can make is simply refusing to accept the first offer